Well, voting is officially underway in the New Hampshire primary after Democratic presidential hopefuls appealed to voters. Live now to CNN reporter Karin Caifa in Manchester. Karin, it's another critical vote. Where is Joe Biden?
Yeah, he is going to be headed to South Carolina later tonight, Laura. He's not even waiting for the results of the New Hampshire primary. He had downplayed the expectations here in New Hampshire after that fourth place finish in Iowa last week and really said that he's not abandoning hope here, but just decided to move on to South Carolina. His campaign framing it as he's looking forward to being more competitive in states that have more diverse populations with contests upcoming, like the Nevada caucuses next week and South Carolina after that. But there are a lot of concerns here about his candidacy. Of course, we've seen Bernie Sanders holding on. He won this primary in 2016. He's favored to win it again, according to the polls. Also, we've seen the rise of Pete Buttigieg. So Biden feeling the pressure there and also feeling pressure from billionaire Mike Bloomberg, who has been airing commercials across the state here in New Hampshire and in a number of key states, hoping to put some pressure on Democrats and really make this race a little more livened up. And so here we are on the day of the New Hampshire primary. It looks like Sanders and Buttigieg and some other moderates trying to get their voices in the fight, Laura.
Yes, Pete Buttigieg has certainly been the surprise victor so far. Do you think he has the momentum to go all the way?
If you look at New Hampshire, he does. And I had an opportunity to speak to a number of voters over the weekend who said they made their decisions rather late. And this seemed to be a pattern. There were a number of people here who said they were either making their decisions over the weekend or as late as getting in the voting booth. But Buttigieg had a lot of momentum because of what happened in Iowa. He is viewed as somebody who is promising, but by many as someone who may not have enough experience to be able to take on President Trump. And some also wonder about his level of experience in terms of being the commander-in-chief and being in the White House. I had one voter tell me that she wished Buttigieg was just 10 years older and she'd be completely sold on him. But the momentum here has been in his favor. He certainly had a rise in the polls and over the weekend was drawing some pretty big crowds. We went to one event here where people were lined up around the block on a very cold Sunday morning to see him. So the momentum right there is there right now. However, when he gets beyond Iowa and New Hampshire and gets into those more diverse states, that's when people who are skeptical of his candidacy are wondering how successful he can be. He has not shown a lot of popularity with African American votes or the Hispanic community, and so some are wondering how competitive is he beyond this state and how competitive would he be in a general election in November.
So perhaps these early states, these early primaries do favour Pete Buttigieg. When you get down the line and further into primary season, who is that favour likely to shift in favour of?
Well, it's been so fluid here, Laura. We've even seen such trends shifting over the last week or so since we got the Iowa results. And even since Friday night's debate, Amy Klobuchar is somebody who was kind of middling in the back of the pack, didn't have a great finish in Iowa, which was neighboring her home state of Minnesota. And so people wondered where she would go from there. However, she's been revitalized here in New Hampshire. She brought in a lot of money after her debate performance. She drew big crowds over the weekend, and some are wondering if perhaps she could be considered another alternative to a Pete Buttigieg in that kind of moderate lane of the Democratic field, really taking votes away maybe from Joe Biden. So there's some competition there. But the question for her is also, where does she go from New Hampshire? And doesn't necessarily have a big campaign organization in South Carolina or Nevada, but certainly walks away from here with the funding to do so. So there's so many different variables. And Laura, there are so many different ways that candidates could claim some sort of victory coming out of New Hampshire tonight. Sanders could have a flat-out victory and say, look at me in the top two in the first two states. Buttigieg could say, look at me hanging on. Klobuchar could claim that she beat expectations and is ready to move on. So really these top five here, the dynamics have continued to shift. And some Democrats wonder, is it a good thing to let this primary process go on this way without a clear and decisive alternative to Donald Trump? That's something they're going to be looking at very closely.
Yeah, it is certainly very confusing to look at, and, to even make any kind of prediction would be fraught with danger. So I'm not going to ask you to do that. Karin Caifa, we'll speak to you soon.